Hey guys, Nick here and welcome back to GamerTube. And welcome back to our What Needs to Be in a Little Nightmares 2 DLC Part 3. So in these videos, I've been going through what I would like to see in a Little Nightmares 2 DLC, and now we've come to the third part, which is the school DLC. Now also, I am aware that Tarsier Studios isn't really making any more Little Nightmares games, but Bandai Namco does own this property, so they could do whatever they wanted with it. Also, before we go any further, I will issue a spoiler warning as we are talking about a DLC for Little Nightmares 2, so obviously Little Nightmares 1 and 2 will be spoiled. But before we start today's video, if you could please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing as it helps out a lot and is really appreciated. Alrighty, well let's get into what needs to be in a Little Nightmares 2 DLC Part 3. So in the last video, I went into the possible DLC surrounding the baker. A large chef-like creature with multiple wires protruding out of his neck. In that video, I talked about him being the host of his own cooking show and his area being an abandoned TV studio. Also, that the wires protruding out of his neck had something to do with the TV signals in the Pale City. But in today's video, I wanted to focus on the school portion of Little Nightmares and what we could see from a DLC. So in this school-themed DLC, you'd play as the student, a young boy who isn't anything like his other classmates. Whilst all the other bullies are quite aggressive and mean-spirited, the student is more of a polite and well-mannered child. The student would always get picked on by the bullies, but would never fight back. So the DLC would start off with one day at recess the bullies were picking on the student and stuffed him into a vent where he tumbles down into the basement area of the school. As you get up and dust yourself off, you soon realise that you need to get yourself back to class by the time recess is over, or you'll be in big trouble with the teacher. And from what we've seen from this teacher, trouble means a whole lot more than just attention. So now we found ourselves in the first part of the school DLC, the basement. Down here it's dark, dusty, and full of old broken desks, chairs, and what seems to be piles of spare doll-like parts from other students. Whilst down in the basement, the student would acquire a flashlight to explore this dusty, dank area of the school. While searching for a way out of the basement, you can see photos of school children up on the walls. These photos are mainly picture day photos with all the classmates seated together and the teacher standing next to them. These kids seem familiar, but aren't anything like the children who populate the school now. These children in the photo look different. They seem to be smiling and their eyes aren't as cold and hollow as the other children at the school. Once the student has navigated through all the dusty, damaged desks and chairs, they eventually find an open air vent that they can crawl into and eventually make it back to the ground level of the school. Whilst crawling through these air vents, the student would accidentally fall through a loose air duct panel and find themselves in the next area, the faculty lounge. This area would be an old looking room with peeling wallpaper, a small dirty kitchen area, rusted old vending machines, dirty soiled couches, and a round table in the centre of the room. Suddenly the door opens and the teacher plus 3 other teachers enter the lounge. The terrifying teachers are here for their coffee break. The teacher grabs an old rusted coffee pot and pours out a thick, disgusting dark liquid into each of the teachers' mugs whilst they sit down around the large table. It's now up to the student to quietly sneak past these disturbing looking teachers. This could definitely be a really tense gameplay sequence, especially because now there's not only one terrifying teacher to deal with, but now there's 4. In this part of the DLC, you could have to hide behind coffee mugs or sneak past the old ruined furniture. Or even a moment where you sneak into an old-fashioned vending machine and hide amongst all the spoiled rotten snacks as one of the teachers puts their coins in to dispense their food. You'd have to stay as still as possible, or you'd get noticed by one of the teachers and they'd smash the glass and grab you and eat you alive. One strange detail is that when you get noticed, the 3 other teachers are the ones who would try to grab you and eat you. Whilst this is happening, the original teacher would just sit there creepily with her coffee and do nothing. It would also be really tense if the teachers were talking amongst themselves in disturbing shrieks, gurgles and croaks, and all of a sudden you hear complete silence. At this moment you'd have to quickly hide or stand perfectly still, as you'd never really know if your position has been made or not. Once the student has narrowly escaped the faculty lounge, you then make your way to the school cafeteria where we meet our next antagonist in the DLC, the Lunch Lady. Now I've spoken about the Lunch Lady before in the first What Needs to Be DLC video I did, but I think it's only fitting that she appears in the school DLC instead. Like I said in the past video, the Lunch Lady would be a lot like the other chef characters from the original Little Nightmares game. She'd be doing tasks around the kitchen, cutting up very suspicious looking food items and adding them to a disgusting looking stew. One thing that definitely seems a little odd is why the lunch lady would be preparing meals for kids who are made out of porcelain, and presumably wouldn't need to eat. This could be food for the teachers. From what we saw in the second game, the original teacher did eat Mono whenever she caught him, so we do know that the teacher characters are living beings that need to eat. Also, another disturbing fact that you could find out in this DLC is just like the mall, these teachers and the lunch lady might actually be eating the real children that once attended this school. This could be true as not only does the teacher eat Mono the instant she sees him, but it's almost like the teacher has been starved and hasn't eaten fresh meat in a long time. This also could be the reason why when the 3 other teachers in the faculty lounge spot you, they're so desperate to grab you and consume you. So in this portion of the DLC, the student would have to sneak around the lunch lady as she makes her disturbing, disgusting meals and try not to get spotted. After a tense gameplay sequence of playing cat and mouse with the lunch lady, we then reach the end of the cafeteria where we see the same bunch of bullies who shoved us into the air vent. They seem to be hanging out in the freezer room of the cafeteria and getting up to mischief. We see them setting up a contraption that looks like it's meant to trip someone over. Whilst the student watches from a distance, he sees the bullies grab the attention of the lunch lady. The lunch lady, furious that there's students in her cafeteria, runs after these mischievous children and trips on the contraption. The lunch lady tumbles to the ground as you hear a loud thud as she hits her head on the cold, solid floor. The bullies, unfazed by their sick little pranks, stare at the lunch lady's motionless body with their cold, unblinking eyes. You then see the group of bullies dragging her dead body into the freezer, only leaving her bottom half and legs out in the open. And it's at this moment we see how the lunch lady met her demise. After this cutscene, the student exits the cafeteria and continues on his journey to make it back to class on time. As the student continues to sneak through the halls of the school, you finally make it back to the door of your classroom with still a couple of minutes left to spare. Once you enter the classroom, the door slams behind you. You soon realise that that group of bullies have trapped you in the classroom with them. One of the bullies throws a book at the student and it strikes him right in the face. The student looks up and sees all the bullies shocked and surprised. You then realise that the student's nose has started to bleed. In a vicious rush, the bullies pin you down and pick you up and carry you away. As they carry the student out of the classroom, it's made apparent why they've always despised him. It turns out that the student is the last human child left at the school. All the porcelain children have always been suspicious of him, and this is the reason why they now know. You also see on the teacher's desk a picture of the student, and at that moment he is no longer known as the student. He is now known as the teacher's pet. We could find out that the teacher's pet was the teacher's favourite student. Also, he may have had the highest grades of all the past kids in his class. This could be the reason why the teacher spared this one child. He was her favourite. He was her star student. We then reach the ending of the DLC where we see the bullies tying the poor teacher's pet to a chess piece as they attempt to do one final sick prank. Much like the ending of Little Nightmares 2 where we see Mono over time transform into the Thin Man, we see the same transition happen to the poor teacher's pet as he remains tied to the chess piece for days and he finally shuts his eyes as the last part of the school's humanity fades away. Alrighty guys, that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Also, in the comment section down below, let me know what you want to see from Little Nightmares 2 DLC, and anything regarding the school, like maybe some theories about the porcelain children, or the teachers, or anything like that. But anyway guys, until the next video, catch you later, bye.